Hi there, welcome back to the Leeds lobby. We're just doing a bit of a midweek kind of update. This isn't going to be Callum O'Dowda or Charles de Ketelaere centric, because I think, to be honest with you, on both of those sagas, I think we're all getting a little bit bored of hearing the backwards and forwards. Although we will touch a little bit on what's happening with Charles de Ketelaere, because there does seem to be a little bit of movement, but there's not really a lot coming out. But we'll talk to you about what we have heard. But in the meantime, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and smash us a like on there, because it's really, really appreciated as we try and build the channel. So first and foremost, I'm going to cover the Charles de Ketelaere news. There was something a little bit this morning that seems to have come out from Bruges that obviously they've accepted Leeds' bid. That's been the case for about 4 weeks now. It's not new information. I think what is new information within the last sort of 2 or 3 days is that CDK has put in a transfer request. Now, up until this point, it's been possible that he could stay at Bruges, that he could go to AC Milan, or that he could become a Leeds United player, although him becoming a Leeds United player was looking unlikely. But I think, again, a lot of people are listening to the Italian press on this, who do tend to lobby on their own club's behalf. It seems that Club Brugge have asked Charles de Ketelaere to go and have a chat with people at Leeds United and said that that's important. And I think that seems to, in my opinion, place the ball a little bit more in Leeds United's court, because we've all seen what Victor Orta is capable of when we talk about bringing people to the club. Why do you think AC Milan seem to be holding out just for what seems to be a difference of between 2 and 5 million on this player? Why are they holding out?
You mean Bruges are holding out?
Oh yeah, why Bruges holding out? What did I say?
AC Milan. I've actually got no clue. I think that it might play a part in they're just. I think it's quite a tough one. I think that they just want to show that they're financially capable as a club, and that they're not gonna get they're gonna be stingy, really. That they're not just gonna sell it. It's only a couple of million. We'll leave it. They want everything they can get, because obviously they've said that they want to sell CDK for a record transfer, and they want to get everything that they can for him so that they can get the best possible replacement.
See, it does seem to me that unlike the Rafinha, Chelsea, Leeds, Barcelona saga, and that seemed to run on for a little while, although it's nothing in comparison to this, I think that what happened is that Bruges have valued the player at 40 million euros. Leeds have offered 40 million euros, and I believe that includes some really likely achievable add-ons. And I think the difference is that now they've lowered their asking price. They've already come to where AC Milan are to some extent. I think AC Milan are offering a reduced valuation based on quite a lot of add-ons, where the payments will be staged payments. And I think Leeds are offering that money up front. And in the same way as Chelsea was doing that with Barcelona, I think that the difference with Bruges and Leeds is Leeds United are in a league where we will make there or thereabouts sort of about £100 million each year from TV rights while we remain in the Premier League. Bruges have just not got that source of income. So whereas Leeds have got money coming in from merchandising, money coming in from abroad, and money coming in from the sale of TV rights, Bruges' main source of income is going to be from fans coming through the door and from selling players on. So I think Leeds United had more of an option to let the player go for a cheaper price. I don't think Bruges have got that option, and it doesn't seem like AC Milan are coming up with the readies, even though it's a reduced amount. Yeah. And I think they're becoming increasingly frustrating. I think Bruges have to sell at this point. I think they are now in a situation where they've become so accustomed to selling. Like with Leeds, we just wanted to get Rafinha out the door, really, once he was going, so that we could buy players in. I think Bruges are in that situation, and really we've reached a stalemate. And until Leeds step away, or AC Milan step away and start pursuing other options, I think this is going to rumble on for another couple of weeks yet. What do you reckon?
I think we'll have, if we are going to get a striker in, I think that I stand firm on my belief that it will be in by in the next probably 7 or 8 days, because obviously we've only got 9 days left until the Wolves game, and now we've only got a few days left until the Cagliari game. I think that we're going to want to get all of our business done in the coming days.
Now the question is, of course, I mean, obviously we're going to be 5 games in by the time the transfer window comes to an end, because of the movement of the fixtures due to the World Cup. So that's changed the parameters a little bit, because we'll actually have started our season. I think it's really important that we do have a striker in by then. But I also think that when we talk about us needing a striker in because we were so badly exposed last year, I think we've got to labour under some kind of assumption that although Patrick Bamford may be injured at some point next year, he's probably not going to be as injured next year as this year. What do you think?
Yeah, that's probable. Yeah, I think that it's more likely that he'll definitely pick up a couple of knocks here and there because he's that kind of player. But I don't think that he's going to be out for as long as he was last season.
Even without bringing a striker in, we have to be stronger than last year because we're starting the season with Joffrey with so much more experience and Greenwood with so much experience. And I think we do have other attacking options. One of my issues is we're bringing lots of players in that are attacking options, like Sinisterra, who looks like he's injured.
Yeah.
And Aronson, who looks like he's also an attacking player.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the players that we've sold are creating more goals and contributing more goals for the clubs that they've been sold to or loaned to. With the exception of Tyler Roberts, of course, who, again, he ain't going to score. I don't know what they signed him for. Bench warmer for me, even at QPR. But the question is, we seem to have sold players. I mean, Charlie Cresswell, has he scored 2 goals now?
Yeah.
That's a good return for a centre-half. I mean, what was it? Our centre-halves did wade in with perhaps 3 or 4 goals.
Llorente scored 3 goals last season.
Strout got a really important goal as well.
Llorente scored 3 goals. He scored against Watford, Villa and Arsenal.
I don't think Cooper scored, did he?
Cooper didn't score.
So, he's already in a situation where he's weighing in. I mean, granted, it's lower, it's a further down league, but goodness me, can you imagine if we have a centre-half that's able to come on the pitch and score 5 or 6 goals a season and weigh in? That's quite a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
So where else do we look like? I mean, obviously you've been trawling through some of the news reports. What else do we look like we are pursuing?
Leeds United want Mergin Berisha, but Fenerbahce are also negotiating a potential deal with the Bundesliga side Stuttgart. It's no surprise that Leeds are now focusing on signing a striker to boost Jesse Marsch's squad.
And is he a striker? Is he? Is he the guy that used to
play at Salzburg?
And he was a really cracking player by the look of it under Jesse Marsch, but then hasn't done so well in the league that he's gone to after that.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on him?
I think that he's really. I don't think Callum Wendo's possible anymore, and we'll get to that in a bit. But it looks to me like he's the backup. We'll get him for as low as 10 million. It won't cost a lot at all. And he's got experience under Jesse Marsch. He's got experience in that system. He'll slot right in. Won't need time to adjust. And I think that he's probably the backup if we don't get CDK.
Why do you think he struggled this last season?
I don't know. And it's not one I know much about recently. I know how he played with Jesse Marsch at Salzburg, but since then I've not really followed him much.
Okay. And you mentioned Callum Wendo. Obviously, we've not really spoken about Callum Wendo yet, but it seems like there are other teams now that are also in for Callum Wendo, and it seems like his stock is rising somewhat.
I think he's also said that it's his priority to stay at PSG and fight for his spot. Leeds United target Arnaud Callum Wendo's priority this summer is to remain with PSG, according to Canal supporters. The Whites already have a deal agreed. The Whites already have a deal agreed in principle with the Frenchman, but it looks like that his priorities are with PSG.
I don't think. Again, I think some of that is paper talk. Some of that is perhaps PSG putting information out that is going to influence the price and try to stir up a little bit of interest.
Yeah.
For me, and many people are saying that Callum Wendo looks like a better player than CDK. I'm not entirely sure about. I mean, CDK, I don't know. Leeds' interest in him is. I think this is somebody who contributes a goal every, I think, 3 or 4 games against a player that seems to score more prolifically. It all depends what we're looking for. Do you think we're after an out-and-out striker?
I've got no clue. I think we're looking at a few different varieties of strikers. Most of them seem to be able to play in multiple positions in the forward role. But I think that we're just trying to find a backup at this point.
I think last year it was evident that we were not the type of team that weighed in with goals from lots of areas. We had, obviously, the wingers were scoring. We didn't really have anybody up front. I think everybody pins a lot of hope on Gelhardt. Gelhardt is somebody who, he contributed. He's obviously somebody that's coming up. For us to say that he's necessarily going to supplant Patrick Bamford at this stage. Again, Patrick Bamford had his detractors when he played in the Championship because sometimes it wasn't all that great. He had a lot of chances to score the goals he scored in the previous season to this last one just gone. it's evident that we have been lacking Jermaine Beckford or a Mark Viduka. We've been lacking, a Robbie Keane or somebody in the front to lead the line that knows where the back of the net is for quite some time. What about this Ketelaere? Do you think he's somebody that we may be still in for?
I think that he's definitely on the list, but there are other clubs showing a lot of interest in him now, and I don't think that he's. I think it's one of them Cody Gakpo ones where it's just smoke screens, it's just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, there's a chance that Oss is going to pull a rabbit out of the bag and we're going to sign somebody that we didn't even know we were in for.
It's always possible with Orta. A rabbit out of the hat's always possible with Orta, really.
Yeah, okay. So what about that left-back position?
Left back, it looks like one of the main targets is Miguel Gutierrez from Real Madrid. I probably completely messed up his... Gutierrez. I probably completely messed up his name there. But he's got quite a bit of potential. 21 years of age. He's not played too much for Real Madrid. I think he's played a few games here and there. Mainly he's played in their B team in their under-23s. What is for us the under-23s. For Real Madrid, it's just their B team. 21 years of age, 180 centimetres in height. I think that he could be a good option, but I'm just worried that he could be another one of these big money, big name signings that they bring in and doesn't do too well. Obviously, or signing Firpo just so they could say they'd signed a player from Barca, and the same with Rodrigo signing him from Valencia. It's very hit or miss for me.
Yeah, and I mean Firpo is somebody who's obviously injured. He's somebody that Jesse Marsh seems to like. He's going to be out for the first 8 weeks or so. And again, I think Connor on the One Leeds fan channel has made some really good points that, we could be, by the time it gets to the end of the transfer window, we could be 5 games in. And the early lineup of games that we have are, I mean, who have we got to begin with? We've got Wolves in the first 5 games. What's the fixture list? We have got some what seem to be a good run of fixtures to begin.
We have first 5 are Wolves, Southampton, Chelsea, Brighton and Everton. Then we have Brentford, Forest, Man U, Villa, Palace.
So up to and including that Forest game, we would certainly be hoping to pick points up against some of that opposition. Yeah. I mean, with the notable exception of perhaps Chelsea, but again, those Chelsea games always they never pan out. I remember playing one of the it was a previous season to last. One of the best games I watched were a 0-0 between Leeds and Chelsea, and I was sitting there saying this can no way end without a goal. This is not a goalless game, and it ended up being a goalless game because those games are quite feisty, and anything can happen. So I think that we're certainly going to be wanting to pick some points up. So that left back situation, I wouldn't want to be starting a game with somebody at left back that isn't a natural left back and somebody who is a first choice player. I wouldn't want to be putting Strauch there because quite frankly I'd want Strauch in the middle, and it seems like Jesse Marsh prefers Strauch and Koch.
That looks like his pairing.
At this moment in time we start with Hjelde, and again even Hjelde is not a typical experienced left back. He's actually a centre back.
Yeah, he's not even too experienced at centre back really.
So it would be. I think it would be really, really unfortunate if the fan base has been screaming out for a left back for us to start the season without somebody in that left back berth with a bit of experience and somebody who's good at going forward. Now you mentioned again, I mentioned that you were on the One Leeds fan channel on the phone, and you mentioned a left back. Who was that you were talking about?
Maxwell Cornet from Burnley. I don't think we'll get him. I think that it's more likely he goes to Nottingham Forest, which is just absolutely so annoying for us because Lewis O'Brien's gone there. It looks like they're going in and pulling up a lot of the players that we've been looking at. I think we were even linked with Toffolo for a little bit. Lingard even as well. We were linked with a move for Jesse Lingard on loan from Man U. But Lewis O'Brien, one we've lost to Nottingham Forest, and if we lost Maxwell Cornet to them as well, it would be. I know we haven't been strongly linked with Maxwell Cornet, but I think that it would be the ideal left back in a Jesse Marsh system.
Is that because he's an attacking player?
That is because he's an attacking player. He's a left back who also plays left mid and striker. We're basically signing 2 players at the same time. We're signing a defender and a forward. He can fill in at striker to an extent if we signed him. Possibly, I would even go as far as to say when Firpo's back, we won't even need to sign a first team striker. But I think that Cornet would fit that mould perfectly for me.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing. I think we've got to be looking now at some of the teams that are around us and where we think we're going to pick points up, but not only where we think we're going to pick points up, but also which teams we think are going to finish below us, and whether enough of those teams are going to finish below us for us to be safe. That's to start with. We need to be getting over that 30-point mark and possibly to the 40-point mark as quick as we possibly can. The early run of games that we've got gives us a great opportunity. We've got 5 or 6 really decent games where I would say easy games, because there's no easy games in the Premiership, but in the Premier League. But certainly there are games where we'd expect you to pick up more points than just 0 points throughout those games. Before we reach Man United, I think 7 or 8 games in, we would expect to be 10, 15 points on the board already, which is a good way in to the season as far as point scoring is concerned. And I think that we look at teams like Everton. I don't know what's going on with Frank Lampard. I can't see this guy being in management in 2-3 years' time, because he's just critical of his players, critical of the referee. This is like a guy who you meet in the playground who just thinks he deserves to be the first name on the team sheet on account of the fact that his name is Frank Lampard. And we're in a situation where, as a manager, I can't see him being in the Premiership. He's going to be one of the first 2 or 3 to go for me. Yeah. And I think Everton will probably go down. I don't think they're in a financial position to buy players.
I don't think they'll go down. I think they've just signed Vinagre from Sporting. He was on loan from Wolves, I think. I think it's a good signing. Also means that Cornet is not going to be going there, because I know they were linked with Cornet.
But they've let the best player go.
And they've let Richarlison go.
And they've really not replaced him. Yeah. And again, for me, Everton, they've not, the one team that have not moved forward with regards to transfers. When we're now needing 5 subs, I think I would be very surprised if they're not in a relegation battle.
Oh no, I think they'll be in a battle, definitely. So I'm looking down, I'm getting I'm getting some rumours on my phone, but lastly, Leeds United are reportedly considering offering a 1-year deal to former Scumchester United goalkeeper Ben Foster, according to Team Talk. The English keeper, as of last season, is a free agent.
That'd be a good bit of business. And I think in coming season, keeping Meslier at the club is an absolute must. Yeah. He's pulled off some proper worldies, hasn't he, in pre-season. I'm looking also at Brentford. Brentford have obviously they've had more significant outgoings than incomings. Would you say?
I don't think I can really recall. No, I don't think they have. I think they've had a few more incomings. They've obviously signed Ben Mee.
They lost Ericsson.
They have lost Ericsson, but
that's massive.
It is massive, but they've signed. I think they'll go down, but I don't think that it's accurate to say they'll have more outgoings than incomings. I think Ericsson's the only major player they've lost. Ben Mee, they've bought in from Burnley. They've bought in that Scottish left back Aaron Hickey. They've bought in a few quality players, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them.
I mean, they've bought in Ben Mee from a club that went down.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about we bring in Charlie Taylor. It would still be good even though they went down. We could bring in Cornet even though we went down.
When you're letting Ericsson go, who made such a difference in the second half of the season,
he definitely did. Yeah.
And he was the difference for them, and what I think probably ended up keeping him in the league or keeping him just noses above that relegation battle. For me, I'm going to enjoy, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, I'm going to enjoy watching Everton have their relegation battle when Leeds aren't in it. For me, we are probably not safe in that relegation battle without a striker and a left back. There's many Leeds fans saying that. We are only just over halfway through the transfer window, of course. Yeah. Brentford brought Ericsson in the January transfer window, and he made massive impact in their season. So even if we're only 5 games in and we're bringing players in, then time's not up yet. But I tell you, one team that does seem to be making a lot of transfers, and that's Nottingham Forest. They've
nearly signed 11 players.
And you know what? They've spent more than Leeds, haven't they?
No, we are the 3rd highest spenders so far this window.
And Forest not spent over 100 million now?
No.
Well, they've spent a lot of money.
I think they've spent around that 70 million mark. Leeds have we're the 3rd highest spenders in the league. Spurs come first, then it's City, then it's Leeds. So I'm quite proud of that.
What concerns me about Forest as a team that perhaps we can't assume is going to be lower than Leeds in the league is that when you consider, like for example with playoffs, it usually seems there's a pattern, and that pattern is that the team that just make the playoffs is quite often a team that does very, very well in the playoffs because they're a form team. The team that just misses out on second place, they very rarely get relegated. The team that almost get automatic promotion very rarely get promoted and win the playoffs. Now Forest are a little bit different because I think they were 6 games in and they lost every one of their first 6 games.
There were 8 games.
8 games in. It was not until they faced Derby that they actually won a point. So when there was a change of management, the fact they've even made the playoffs, let alone nearly finished second, just shows that if you'd set those first 8 games, they would have walked that league on hands and knees. They'd have walked it. And I think that's a Forest side that, yes, have lost some loan signings. I think they've made some good signings. And we talk about a team that comes up and stays in that league. It's normally that the owner in the second season doesn't spend the money that's required to kick on, as we saw with Rads with Leeds last season. And that's where that second season syndrome comes in. And now Leeds experienced that. For me, I think it's next season that Forest are going to struggle. I think they're going to be okay this coming season. But that, again, leads us to think who is going to be the 3 teams that are definitely going to be below Leeds United, so Leeds United stay up. Wolves,
Bournemouth, Southampton and Brentford, and possibly Wolves.
Wolves, they had a bad run. What have they done in the transfer window?
Not a lot. They've signed Nathan Collins, who wasn't even a regular in the Burnley team that went down. And I think that's about it. Raul Jimenez out injured. They're now looking at Christian Benteke as a replacement, which is quite laughable. He's 31. He's not even a regular in the Crystal Palace team. I don't think that they've strengthened enough. Chiquinho, obviously getting injured, is another big blow for them.
I think you did also make a point about Leeds' outgoings and incomings, how we've not necessarily grown that much in depth of squad. Sinisterra's come in to kind of replace Rafinha in that regard. Yeah. Well, it'll either be a good replacement or it'll be a bad replacement, but he won't be a like-for-like replacement. For us to sign somebody that just turns out to be just as good as Rafinha, I don't think a transfer like that comes along very, very often. For us to have signed 2 within the space of 5 years would be highly unlikely. It might be good. It might be good for the league, but he isn't going to be the world beater that Rafinha is. Rafinha might even be charging for Ballon d'Or this year, the way he's started.
That's what I've said. I have said I think that in the next 2 years he'll be in the running for a Ballon d'Or.
He set off like a steam train at Barca. Yeah. Two goals, 2 assists in 2 games. We look at Roca and Tyler Adams, and you mentioned that they're probably a 2-player replacement for Phillips.
Yeah, Phillips split into 2 bodies is what I've said.
And now that might seem like a bad thing because you're taking two team members up to do that holding midfield role, but I don't think it's as straightforward as that. Obviously, you're covering more of the pitch with 2 players. If you're playing a double pivot, you should be covering more defensive areas in the centre, which would allow both your wing backs to be going forward more. So it allows for us to have Erasmus Christensen more attacking and in more advanced positions. And whoever it is, we're bringing a left back. At this moment in time, it could be anybody playing left back, but it certainly won't be Junior Firpo because he's injured. It could be any left back in the world that we're possibly linked with when Arthur finally gets his finger out and signs one. So there's a different balance because although we've signed 2 defensive players there, we've got now 2 defensive players doing that role, what Phillips was doing. What we have in return is we have wing backs that are able to give us more width. So there's a movement in terms of the actual logistics of how that team works. Do you think it's going to work for Leeds United?
I think it's hard to say until we've seen us play, really. After that Wolves game, we'll have a good idea of how we're going to do, really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're playing Cagliari in a few days' time. Cagliari in a few days' time. How do you think we're going to... How do you think we're going to line up for that?
It depends if we've got a left-back and a striker in. We're not only playing in 3 or 4 days' time. I can't think we're going to have anybody in the ground to play. Yeah, I think we could do. Sinisterra, we were linked with him and then like 2 days later we'd signed him. I think that we could have a couple of signings come out of the blue before the Cagliari game, and I think that's possible, definitely. My lineup would be give Drame a start. Just maybe don't keep playing Christensen, don't want to risk him getting injured. Maybe put Drame at right back, give him a bit of a run in, then bring Christensen on at half time. Because Drame needs minutes too. Sorry about the dog barking. Right, Drame at right back. Then you've got Stark and Cock at centre back. Get them as much as experience next to each other as possible before the start of the season. Then at left back, I would give Hjelde a bit of a go at left back. Harrison at left back doesn't work for me. CDMs, Roca and Adams. Then you've got in attacking midfielder Aronson, because he's played well in the pre-season games. You need to get these new signings experienced. And then on the wing, Sinisterra is obviously injured, so it's got to be Harrison and James as inverted wingers. James on the right, Harrison on the left. Actually, they're both... James is right-footed, so James on the left and Harrison on the right.
If he's going to play inverted,
Yeah.
I mean, he might just opt to play with the width.
And then Bamford up front, just give him that extra little bit of time to try and get his rust off and try and get him back to where he was before.
I mean, the good thing about Jesse Marsh's system is that if we seem to be struggling defensively or we're playing a team that sets up slightly different, we can move from having wing backs to having just normal left back, right back, and we can de-invert the wingers and play them on the natural footed side, and it just again gives us another option as far as tactical changes that we can make that can impact the game really quickly. What I would say, that's all from us now. It's been good to have you back. If you've made it to this point in the video, please put your comments in the box. What you think about some of the signings, who you think we should be in for, what you think is going to be the lineup. Do you have any different opinions on what we think? Do you think we're going to sign Charles de Ketelaere? Do you think we're going to sign Callum O'Dowda, or is there somebody else we might be in for? Put the comments in the box below. By all means, subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll get back and we'll speak to you next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.